Tens of thousands of Chinese people are working illegally here in the UK in our hidden economy. They are smuggled into the country by snakehead gangs. I've discovered that one of the most successful and feared of all the snakehead gang bosses is a woman called Sister Ping.
Hello?
The female voice on this police surveillance tape is that of Sister Ping, aka Jingping Chen. Barely 5 feet tall and in her late 30s, Sister Ping was renowned to be the most ruthless gang leader in Europe. She first came to the attention of British police for her suspected involvement in a chilling international kidnap operation. In a dispute over smuggling debts, 5 Chinese illegal immigrants were held hostage in a West London flat by snakehead gang members for 10 days. Their families in China were forced to listen to the screams of their relatives on the phone while they were being tortured.
It's not an exclusively male thing. So it can be...
There are women triads. They can just be as vicious, if not more, some of them.
You may be unfamiliar with the name of Sister Ping, but you will be familiar with the horrific tragedy she was behind. Late one night in June of 2000, customs officials stopped a suspicious lorry on arrival in Dover. Behind the pallets of tomatoes stacked up to hide its real load, they found 58 dead Chinese illegal immigrants and just 2 survivors. Former Detective Chief Inspector Bob Nelson was called in that night and led the investigation into this gruesome people smuggling operation gone wrong.
Bob, could you tell me what confronted you once you arrived down at Dover Dock?
There was real carnage, discarded clothing, so a real devastating scene. Predominantly young people. They had met a most unpleasant death.
When police used 58 Gurkhas to recreate the cramped conditions inside the sealed container, it showed just how merciless the gang were and how horrific the immigrants' deaths must have been as they slowly suffocated. Police found some of the dead holding on to each other.
They had sort of tried to comfort each other as they probably realized the inevitability of the situation.
China's huge rural population suffers from extreme poverty, and they are increasingly turning to snakehead gangs to help them leave the country and seek a better life abroad. I tracked down a Chinese illegal immigrant who was smuggled into Britain. It took over 6 months for her to get here.
这路上什么都是那个蛇头逮的路，还有一次坐船，还有几次从那个也坐那个火车，从那个一路反正都有蛇头接送什么的，害怕。
Chinese people pay the snakehead gangs huge sums of money to be smuggled out of China and into the West. But my investigations have revealed that amazingly they have no idea where their final destination is.
A lot of the time you're not exactly sure where you're going. I mean, according to my clients, they know that they're going to Western Europe. I mean, are they able to get to France, Germany, Holland, and England? It's by luck. You know, depending on what's the circumstances at the time, is it very, very tough? Are they being checked very carefully? It's not like going on holidays, I want to go to that destination. It doesn't exist that way.
The Chinese woman I spoke to had to pay £16,000 to a snakehead gang to be smuggled into the UK. As soon as she arrived in the UK, her family in China were expected to pay the fee. Unfortunately, the family didn't have all the money, so the gang held her hostage for over a week until the debt was paid. She told me that during this time she was beaten and then raped by the gang.
对呀，钱也是钱没有还清楚，再一点他也是在那边，后来我也不知道，就问了几句，他就把我打了一下嘛，就是撇过去，就是这打过去，后来人就迷迷糊糊的。 就被他那个好像都没有还银掉了。
A former Triad member told me more about how these ruthless gangs use fear and intimidation to make sure they get paid.
It's usually by threats, but very subtle threats. Say, for example, they will come and show you photographs of your children and your wife and ask you, oh, Do you know this family? So that's very subtle, isn't it?
But if these threats fail, they will not hesitate to resort to more shocking and extreme measures.
Chinese used to go to the restaurant for lunch, isn't it? And it's very crowded, and there will suddenly burst in few people, and they would, with machetes, and just cut you up. Not kill you, cut you up.
To me, snakeheads are violent gangsters exploiting the desperate, but I was surprised to learn that to many of the Chinese, they are merely seen as travel agents.
Majority of the Chinese view snakeheads as a necessary, like a travel agent. They don't actually particularly see them as bad. They actually see them as necessary. A lot of them actually see them as necessary, as the only way they can actually get out of China.
At Dover, the police investigation to find the snakeheads behind the lorry tragedy had no leads, until searchers of the crime scene uncovered suspicious telephone numbers hidden in the clothing of the dead victims.
There was one number that we discovered had appeared 27 times within various people in the back of the lorry, and we identified that through the mobile phone owner to a lady called Ying Guo.
Guo, captured here on CCTV during her arrest, was a Chinese interpreter living in London who was set to meet the smuggled immigrants. She was jailed for 6 years for her part in the smuggling operation, but her triad code of silence meant that she refused to reveal the name of her boss. With the trail in Britain dead, the police, with the help of the Dutch authorities, pieced together the complex continental side of the smuggling operation and soon arrived at a familiar name, Sister Ping.
Sister Ping came up regularly as potentially being at a high level within this criminal organisation.
During her reign as Europe's most prolific people smuggler, she was thought to have brought over 7,000 people into the UK. It's estimated she made over £10 million. The police knew she was behind the Dover tragedy, but they couldn't gather enough evidence to prosecute her, yet.
Hello?
This is one of over 12,000 phone calls recorded by police as they try to build a case against Sister Ping. She is heard discussing a smuggling operation that has gone wrong with a triad associate based in Hungary. Using these phone taps, the Dutch police managed to gather enough evidence to prosecute Sister Ping. But even then, because no one would testify against her, they couldn't charge her with the most serious crime of people smuggling. She was jailed for just 3 years. What the Dover tragedy and the story of Sister Ping revealed was how intricate the web of international people smuggling is.
It's slavery, modern-day slavery. The methods might change, but objectives do not change. Objective is to exploit